Specifically, this season is going to be about how to dissolve core fears, because who doesn't want that? Because fear is terrible and awful. And today we're going to talk about fear more broadly, about not only the emotional component, but how does fear affect us in the body? How does that
Mhm.
response inform the way fear works on us? How can we use that response to our advantage? And just sort of knowledge is power, right? So let's get to know our fear a little bit better so it has less control.
Yeah, similarly to we did a whole season on different emotions, fear and the physiological response that happens in your body, even though it might feel negative. Fear doesn't feel good. Those physiological sensations are still signs that can point us in the direction of like either something that we need to become aware of or something that we need to protect ourselves from. So even though it feels negative, it's still being connected to and aware of these sensations can still benefit us.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm aware as you're talking of maybe the people out there that are like, fear's not negative. I love horror movies, right? And it's like, okay, true, but that's different because that's, again, if you remember last week, fear is about context, right? And so within the context of your safety in your couch, watching people die on a screen while you eat popcorn with a blanket, of course, that fear might be enjoyable, right? Because that
Mhm.
within that context, you know that you're safe. The fear that is not enjoyable, which I think we can all agree is not enjoyable, is the fear that is running through you when you're in actual danger, or maybe you're not in actual danger, but you still perceive that you are. So that type
Mhm.
of fear is not an enjoyable type of fear. And I'm a horror movie fan, so I stand by that.
I think you just unintentionally explained to me why I can't stand horror movies, and that's because I'm so, like, empathetic, even though I know it cognitively it's not real, like, other parts of my brain imagine it being real and imagine how those people are feeling, and it makes me feel awful.
Exactly. So that part of your brain, it's like it doesn't care about the context. It's like,
Yes.
no, that's bad. These are suffering. It's a fear. Yeah,
Mhm.
total sense.
Yeah.
So that's why they're not everybody's cup of tea, right? Because fear doesn't feel good if there's real danger or the perception of real danger or the deep empathy for someone that you think could eventually one day be in real danger, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So, fear in our bodies, just I wanna go over a few symptoms, we can call them symptoms, signs, just physiological sensations. When you're in a state of fear, one of the biggest one is that your heart rate increases. You may experience shallow breathing, your muscles could tense up, so if sometimes usually it's like jaw clenching or like raising your shoulders. I think I've heard, coaches often say, like, "Oh, bring your shoulders down from your ears, like, don't wear your shoulders."
Yeah.
And I've ever since I've heard that kind of visual, I'll notice myself bringing them up, and I'm like, "Oh, what the heck?"
Yeah.
Because it's kind of an unconscious thing. Um, Another
Goosebumps
one.
are actually your
Yeah.
muscles tensing. That's goosebumps are
Oh,
muscle tension. That's what they are. It's the little tiny muscle at the base of your hair follicle getting tense. And it's actually a physiological protective response. In the human, it's feeble
uh-huh,
and it's pathetic because you can't even tell that my hairs are on end. Like that's just
mhm.
lame. But that's the point of it because there's other animals for they get into fear. The muscles at the base of their hair follicles stand on end and they double in size. You know what I mean? Or they triple in
What's a
size.
porcupine?
Exactly. They look scarier. They look way more intimidating. And so this goosebump thing that we do when, you say, oh, I went to a horror movie and my hair stood on end. That's actually your body trying to scare off the predator. It just doesn't work. The hairs are a half a centimeter big. So like the predator's just
I
still
love
going to
that.
shoot you in the head. But otherwise,
Was dark, Brian, but that's hilarious. So, yeah,
sorry, no one's
goosebumps.
going to shoot you in the head.
I'm sure that's true for everything.
Glad you tuned in today, everyone.
Okay, so yes, goosebumps. Another one is like sweating, sweaty palms or armpits, or just being in a state of stress can cause some sweating. And then in general, some people call it like hypervigilance or like a heightened sense of alertness, like you're just paying extra focused attention and you're taking in like all of the details of whatever's happening around you more intently. So these are all things that can happen when we're in a state of fear, and all of them can uh, either signal things to us or help us figure out, the correct way to respond.
Yeah, and it's because fear starts in the brain, but it has this physiological thing in the body, right? And like that bodily response, it can throw us off a little bit when we first start tuning into it because there's so much happening. But they are actually they are guides. They can be little guideposts. But
Yeah.
we have to get familiar with it, right? And fear, by its very nature, it takes us out of that sort of being mindful. Instead, we go to chaos, protection, whatever, right? And so
Mhm.
the thing to understand or to try to practice is to find a way to be mindful in fear, to become present to fear, because fear, fight, flight, freeze, like it makes us want to defend or run or stop cold. Like those names aren't accidental, right? Like that's what it makes us want to do. And by becoming more attuned to the types of fears that we experience in a day-to-day chronic way, we can actually understand and notice those physiological responses and when they happen and become present with them. That's unique to the human condition in today's society because there would have been no evolutionary advantage to becoming present with your fear in front of the bear that's trying to attack you hundreds of years ago.
Mhm.
Right? Instead, you're supposed to run. So it's like the fight, flight, or freeze response is like evolutionarily designed, like divinely designed, like it's there to protect us. And yet we've built a culture now since that time where we don't have constant threat of danger. We have constant stress. Like this paycheck might not cover all my bills, but you aren't going to die as a result of that. Like, at least not today, not immediately, not now, right? And so it's like this fight, flight, freeze. It's about immediate response, but our evolution hasn't caught up with how comfortable we've made the earth. And I say that
Yeah.
knowing the irony of how uncomfortable a lot of earth is for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
the broadest metrics, like the amount of murders overall, the amount of freedom overall, like we're getting better. Like earth is more and more free now, more and more safe now, more and more abundant now. Like I mean, it's always been the same amount of abundant, but like more and more people
Mhm.
have access to that abundance now, even though there's a lot of crime and a lot of horror and a lot of terror. And that's the nature of the media and its focus that it puts out there on things. All of that is to say, we have chronic now stress, chronic fear, but that chronic stress and fear is not actually related to imminent danger. And so our fight, flight, freeze response is about imminent danger. It's meant to come online and protect us from imminent danger. And yet instead, it's online all the time, pretty consistently for everybody. Like that's true for me still sometimes. And for most of the people I know, I see us walking through life stressed out, in a fight mode, in a flight mode, in a fawn mode, because it's familiar. It's autopilot. It actually feels safer, right? But the long-term effects of that safety is chronic disease, is like lots of fatigue, being very tired, maybe self-isolating, like we can't have the depth and intimacy in relationships. All kinds of things are affected negatively by our unconscious giving in to fear, which we then call anxiety or stress. But what we're doing is unconsciously giving in to fear, thinking it's fear of imminent danger, but it's really just it's stress and anxiety related to the way we've created society right now.
Mhm.
Does this make sense?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
all big picture, but yeah.
Big picture. Yeah. So exactly. So what do we do about it? How do we navigate and handle this life? We're here. Like this is our culture now, right? The culture is very stressful. So something about separating stress and what that means and how to respond to it from imminent danger and what that means and how to respond to it. Because right now we're responding to stress like imminent danger.
Well, I think what we have to understand is that when we're in a fear response, we are kind of shut off from certain ways to react to it. Like we
Mhm.
basically just have only the options of like fight, flight, freeze, fawn. What you had mentioned flood. And I'm actually going to connect this to I'm reading a book called Fight Right by John and Julie Gottman. They are two researchers who have been studying relationships and love and conflict for decades, and they're famous for being able to predict 90% of the time whether a couple will stay together 6 years later after only listening to 3 minutes of a conversation or conflict between a couple. And the thing that John and Julie Gottman kind of point out is that once you're in a conflict and someone's fear response gets triggered, their heart rates go up, usually what will happen is people will start to react out of fear and
Mhm.
potentially like attack each other, which then creates fear in the other person. And if you can't stop that cycle, if you can't recognize that the fear is happening and either take a break or consciously choose to make bids for connection in that moment, then that fear is going to take over and it's going to break down the relationship. Essentially, it's going to create more likelihood that we're going to engage in a way that is harmful and fear based. But people who are able to kind of notice that it's happening and make attempts at repair are able to kind of save their relationships. But
Mm.
I think fear is a really core piece of conflict in that when it gets triggered, we may react or treat our partners in ways that we really would not choose to if we were not in a fear response. And I think that goes for, pretty much any interaction with other people, any, you know, moment in our lives. If we're in a state of fear, we're probably going to react differently than if we were calm and trusting that we were safe.
Yeah, that's a huge, it's like we get hijacked, like, and that's honestly the way it's supposed to work, right? In the fight, flight, or freeze, like if you're in imminent danger, your body runs you away from it. You're not actually thinking it through. You're running
Mhm.
away. That's it, right? Or you're flailing in defense. Like it's not thought through. It's without thought. It's pre-thought. It's instinctual, right?
Mhm.
And that's the problem is that we're bringing this instinctual way of interacting to interactions that actually aren't required for us to be operating from our instincts. They're requiring us to be operating from our intellect. But
Mhm.
instead, the fear response drops us out of the intellect into the automatic response because we think our
Mhm.
life is threatened, right? So it's this thing of understanding, being able to it's beyond understanding. It's like bodily understanding, I because it's like, of course, your brain knows your husband or wife is not a tiger who's going to claw you on some cognitive level. You know that, right? So it's not that we need to convince ourselves that people aren't tigers. It's that we need to convince our body that people aren't tigers, that every threat out there isn't a threat to my imminent life. Like, yes, it's threatening if I don't have enough money to pay my bills, but I don't die from it. Yes, it's threatening if my husband or wife says really mean things to me, but I don't die from it. And that understanding makes total sense to my brain, but it's my body that has to catch up. So it's like a way of how do we continue to remind our body, to continue to show our body the truth that we're safe, even in the middle of conflicts that don't feel safe.
Mhm.
Caveat here, if you're actually in a place that doesn't feel safe, it's a different strategy in dealing with your fear. In that case, you go right with your nervous system response and let it guide you.
Yeah. Yeah, but in the event where like you are physically safe, we almost have to resist the urge to react as if we're not safe because what happens when we react just based on the fear is you kind of either go on like attack mode or yeah, I guess the fight response is the most common, but
Yeah.
you let's work with just the fight.
Yeah,
If you're
sure.
in a fear response and you go on fight mode, you're going to attack somebody's character. You're going to potentially point out all the things that they've done wrong. You're going to do things that are inherently destructive to the relationship, which doesn't help you. And then later they're going to be more likely to attack you back. And then you're going to feel even more threatened and afraid. And so these cycles can happen where when both people's heart rates have raised and they're activated,
Mhm.
you're just fighting.
Yeah. Being
And it's just
activated is
making
a
things worse.
total. Yeah, exactly. It just makes things so much worse. And we actually don't show up in interactions when we're activated. We the phenomenon of regret, right? It's like the reason we have that is because of things like this. Like regret is a phenomenon that comes as a result of us being hijacked and then not showing up in the situation the way we want to show up. And so then we have regret, right? So it's like
Mm,
noticing that the
that's
way
good.
you show up when you're hijacked, like it's just to be aware, to be mindful of it. Like, okay, I feel in the moment of being hijacked, I feel right. I feel justified. Fuck them, right? So it's like in that moment, yes, you're going to feel justified. And you might actually be justified. Who am I to say your wife or husband doesn't deserve the onslaught of your fury? Maybe they do. It's not the point though, right? The point is it's not what you actually want. Like you're still married to this person. And so what you
Mhm.
want, I'm assuming, is deep connection, kindness, camaraderie, love.
Yes.
Otherwise, you should be getting divorced. Like, so if you want that, if that's actually what you want, then noticing when I'm in attack mode, even if I'm convinced of my righteousness in that minute, I'm still competing with what I want in the way I'm showing up in the relationship. So it's like
Yeah.
taking out the other person out of the equation. It doesn't actually matter if they're right, if they're wrong. What matters is how do I want to show up? What is it? What do I want for me in response to the fear I feel? And I
Yeah.
want to show up and be hijacked less often. That's what I want, right?
Yeah.
And then I want to show up and be more patient, more kind, more understanding in my relationships. At least, even if I don't want that, maybe I want to be able to be more heard. And if I want to be more heard, I also need to drop out of the attack mode so that I can communicate more clearly. So, like, no matter what it is you want in the relationship, the thing you don't want is alienation and disconnection. And that's what comes when we operate and do actions from the place of being activated.
Yeah.
Because
So
you can't not be active. It's like you can't help yourself. Like it's not like it's a failing to have become activated. That's to be super clear, right? It's like once you've become
mhm.
activated, you couldn't help it. That's where you're at right now with your nervous system. It's noticing in that moment, I don't have to act on this because acting on this is it's going to lead me to regret.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like Sona said, you can be right or you can be happy, Dr. Phil. And this is so true. It's so true because well, and essentially what you were just describing, Brian, is that when we're in a fear response, we then all of a sudden have competing goals where
Mhm.
there's a part of you that wants to feel safe, there's a part of you that wants to feel right, and then there's the part of you that wants to feel connected, that wants to feel like they're very different.
And
And
they're
and
opposite.
they're opposite. And so if you give into needing to assert yourself and feel safe when there isn't a real threat, we potentially sabotage our ability to have the other thing that we want.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things. Like fear is this beautiful ancient thing that's kept us
Mhm.
alive for millennia. And right now it's just this crippling thing that gets in the way. So it's both. It's literally
Yes.
both. And we have to find a way to work with that, like to manage that so that we can show up how we want to show up instead of being hijacked by this aspect of our physiology that's trying to do its job and say, oh, I'm trying to protect you, but we keep feeding it the wrong information of like I'm in a life threatening situation is the sort of the unconscious thing we keep feeding into the amygdala monster, right? And it's not our fault. As I say that, I'm not blaming you listeners. Like I do it too. Like there's no blame. It's a product of the mechanics of the society we live in. We live in a society that goes at this feverish rat race pace. Our news media is almost singularly focused on the negative, right? So it's like if you're a person listening to this and you're like, wow, my nervous system is so easily activated, join the club. Like it's okay. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's how it is. It's a product of being an American. It's a product of being alive right now. It's a product of being part of this technologically advanced society where you can get information
Yeah.
constantly and a lot of it is scary.
Yeah. And I think if we were to take that knowledge or take that fact and then say, okay, what can I do about it? I think the simplest way to respond to that is to say, if I notice that I'm in a state of fear, I know that there's a chance that I could react or behave in a way that goes against what I actually, on a deep level, need and want. And therefore, when I notice myself being in that fear response, if I can take a break, if I can acknowledge that that fear response is happening and step away for a moment, and specifically, like maybe let's say in the context of a conversation with your partner and you're in conflict, saying, okay, I recognize I'm getting activated right now, and I don't think that I'm going to contribute to this conversation in a way that's going to go in a good direction. So because I love you and because we're on the same team, I'm going to take a little while to go calm my nervous system. I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to think about the fight while I'm there because I could reactivate that fear. I'm just going to go do whatever is self-soothing and calming to help myself get back to a baseline, and then we can resume our conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's hard. That what you're describing is that is the way, right? That's awesome. It's aspirational though. Like it's something that will take us, we practice to get to that, to do that. And so one of the ways in to what you're describing is to notice the opposites. It's a tool from acceptance and commitment therapy, because literally your what you need and want is often 180 degrees diametrically opposed to what your mind thinks is the method to get it. Because your mind wants the same thing as your body. Your mind and your body both want the same thing. We want coherence, we want safety, we want belonging, whatever it is, that competency, that there's a few core yearnings. And the mind wants them just like the body wants them. But the mind has this idea about getting it that's almost always the opposite of how it should be gotten, in this case with fear. And so noticing opposites is a way into that slowing down, that mindful practice around fear. Here's what that would look like. It's like you're in the fear response, you're in a conflict with your partner, and you notice, okay, I'm in the fear response. So you have to have that noticing. The first thing is practicing the noticing. As soon as you notice, you go, okay, what is it that I'm wanting to achieve right now in my anger? And it's like, I want to be right. I want to make her hurt feelings, whatever it is, like honest about it. And then go to the opposite. You say, thank you, mind, for offering me this solution of attacking my wife, but instead I'm going to go to the opposite. I'm just going to go to the opposite. You know what I mean? And literally do the opposite. And if the opposite is impossible, like I can't compliment her right now because I don't believe that, then the opposite would be what Mo said, walk away, right? Like so whatever it is the opposite thing. And whichever opposite is attainable, do it in that moment, because you're practicing finding the bodily solution instead of the mental solution, because the bodily solution is usually the opposite of the mental solution, even though they want the same thing.
And when and if you walk away, it cannot just be silent, because that gets internalized as abandonment for other people. And so you could very well trigger a fear just by like silent treatment, walk away without, any suggestion or communication over that you're going to return to the conversation. That's actually incredibly damaging. So if you are going to walk away and you are going to take a break, it has to include the acknowledgement that your system is activated and you want to be able to try to have this conversation in a calmer state, and that you are going to return to the conversation when you're calm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because like communication is this delicate, nuanced thing, and it's like it's time bound, right? Like if you're in an argument with your partner and you do this thing and you decide to say, I'm going to come back later to the conversation, right? Like there's a certain amount of space within which you get silent and then you offer that explanation. If there's too much space, the other person's going to start getting activated. So it's very nuanced and important how and when and we say what we need to say, right? A caveat to that, though, is that like this paradigm, what Mo and I are describing, is under the assumption that you want to work it out with this person. And so that's the assumption. In that assumption, yes, you can't just do the silent thing and walk away. However, I just want to mention that like there's many, many, many types of conflicts and interpersonal relationships. And if you're one of the people who's in a relationship where actually the best thing for you to do is to get out of it and get away from it, like then in that case, walking away with silence, with no explanation, is allowed. It's absolutely allowed. So just knowing, it's not like we're giving you a rule that you can never walk away in silence or you must always walk away in silence. It's again context. If you're trying to work it out with this person, then don't use the silent treatment, because that's fucked up. But if you're not trying to work it out with this person and you actually consider it dangerous, you owe them nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't owe an explanation. I think, yeah, I've had a couple conversations with people recently where they're saying like, I feel like I need to get away from this person, and I feel like me even suggesting that to them is going to cause them to attack me.
Yeah.
And like verbally. And in that case, like quite literally the best thing to do is just like block them and quit replying and quit engaging, because if you know they're going to attack you and you know that every time that you interact with them you're getting activated, get out.
Yeah. You got
like Brian said, you don't owe them anything.
Yeah, you don't owe them anything. So it's just nuances here, right? Like knowing what your goal is in overcoming your fear. Am I overcoming this fear because I want to go deeper with this person, or am I overcoming this fear which isn't possible until I get away from this person, right? So it's okay either way. Like we just need to know where we're at and honor where we're at. Like everything Mo and I talk about, it's mechanical to give agency to and to help us understand it too. It's never ever a dogma. There are no rules. There's only perpetual creative response to whatever is present in your life and doing the best that you can. And in
Yeah.
the realm of fear, self-gentleness is even more important because literally puts us in brain fog. It takes our cognitive function away. It makes it lower automatically because, like you were talking about last week, it pulls pulls the blood out of the brain and sends it all
Yep.
the other places that we needed to go in order to run or in order to fight or in order to flop or whatever. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you give yourself some grace if you're not thinking clearly, because that's the name of the game. That's what we're practicing, is how to juggle this and thinking clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, Brian, you said that you have an exercise to share. Does that still feel relevant?
Yeah, totally. So this is something that's super physical. So this is the kind of thing, if you're one of the people out there listening and you notice you have sort of like in some anxiety that hangs on you. You might not even consider yourself an anxious person, but you have that heat on your skin sometimes, or you feel those nerves about going to a new spot, or just maybe the low
Mm-hmm.
level butterflies are kind of there because life is a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
Oftentimes what that indicates is that we have not the vagus nerve, which we haven't talked about a lot today, but the vagus nerve is a part of also how the fight or flight response happens. It's the nervous system, right? And the vagus nerve is this long nerve that stretches from the brainstem all the way down to some muscles at the back of the gut there. And because of that, it's right here, this long piece of the nerve, and it goes through the trap muscles. You know, the trapezius muscles are the ones at the base of the shoulder. And it's
Yeah.
like this, when people are doing this, it's because those trap muscles are tight. It's not actually the muscles at the top. It's the muscles like back here that tighten. And
Yeah.
as they tighten, they pull your shoulders up. Those
Mhm.
muscles tighten, and as they tighten, the vagus nerve also gets all knotted up, right? The vagus nerve is directly related to easing stress, easing anxiety, and like reducing the hormones that actually are the precursors to those things. So all of that is to say, this is why this weird stretch will help you. So that's just a little background. And then the stretch goes like this, right? So just in case the fact finders out there who need to know why before they do something hokey, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the hokey thing though. You just sit any comfortable way that you want to sit, and you do the thing Mo was talking about 5 minutes ago, where you drop your shoulders. So this is not it, drop. And then once you drop, it just takes 30 seconds on each side. So you can do this for 1 minute of your day and you'll start to feel easing. If you do it for longer, you'll feel more easy, but don't go above 3 minutes on each side, because then you're going to strain the nerve muscle, right? So 3 minutes tops, 1 minute minimum. And all you do is you make sure that this shoulder doesn't come up to meet it, but you bend your ear down to and try to make it so your ear is going towards your shoulder, not like your face. You know what I mean? Like you keep your face forward and your ear goes down, and then you might notice your shoulder wanting to come up to meet it. If that happens, just drop it and then go as far as you can, making sure it's the ear, not your face. And then once it's there, you take your eyes and you look down in the same direction. And what you should feel,
Weird that you can feel it.
yes, right here on this side, you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. So you just hold this for 30 seconds and you keep breathing. Don't hold your breath, just hold the position. We'll just do it in real time. This is going to feel nice. So if you're doing it right now, just, what happens in the vagus nerve stays in the body. Okay. We'll come back up. And when you come up and down, you drop your shoulders once. And then we're just going to go to the other side. So, and then make sure your shoulder doesn't come up. It's going to want to rise to meet it. If it does, you just drop it. Once you feel like you've gotten that far as you can, then do your eyes. And that will pull you down further. And you really want to try to keep your eyes like looking forward, like your face, your sockets looking forward, but just your eyes down. You know what I mean? And then you'll feel it. You'll know. Anyone doing this at home too, you can move your neck, tweak it a little until you're feeling that stretch right there. It's not super intense. It's just a little tightness.
Mm.
And then make sure your shoulders stay dropped. Mine always want to go up. That's key. There you go. And that's it. You just come back to center, a nice deep breath, and one more shoulder shrug. Yeah, that's the exercise. Like, that's honestly it. And what that does is that strengthens vagal tone, is what it's called. So that's not an exercise that, to be clear about the context of this, right? You don't need to, it's not like you're, oh, I'm activated. You're making me mad. I'm going to go do the Vegas exercises. Certainly it'll work in that case to help you a little bit. The best thing with these exercises is just like, this is why I was describing, if you're the kind of person who sort of like has the anxiety as you walk through your day and you notice that's happening to you, like this stretch is something you could do once a day for a minute. And over time, you will notice it's helping you. Like, that's the idea, that it's actually strengthening that nerve. It's strengthening it to such a degree that the nerve can withstand more stress. And so the fight or flight response, it doesn't hijack you the same way. You notice it doesn't hijack you, right?
Mm. I like that. Well, and also just even taking a moment to do an exercise, like, period, is so helpful because you're consciously pausing, you're consciously breathing. And frankly, when we're in a, perpetual state of stress in our lives, that's something that a lot of times we don't even like give ourselves permission to do. So
Yeah.
that alone, like vagus nerve or not, is going to help by itself. And then when you add this physiological component, like it's also going to assist you with being able to better handle a fear response in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Just to better handle it. Just getting to know you, getting to know your body. We actually start to get to feel it, right? Like, we don't even notice our senses. Like, you could say, I'm scared, but you actually don't notice that you're doing this. We
Yeah.
have to notice that. We have to bring our awareness to all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. I learned a lot, as
Thank you,
always.
Brian. Yeah, me too.
Everybody else out there too, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.